Did Meghan Markle really just plagiarize her way to the edge of Netflix's cliff? It's late May 2025, and the streamer's once glittering lifestyle gamble, with Love, Meghan, now hangs by a fraying thread. One emergency board meeting, a stack of leaked scripts, and a whisper-turned-roar of copied scenes have flipped Hollywood's newest feel-good series into a potential courtroom case. The budget is ballooning, reshoots loom like storm clouds, and insiders say even Meghan's fiercest allies are quietly backing away. Yet behind the headlines lies a larger question. How did a duchess-turned-producer with a 9-figure deal end up accused of lifting recipes, sets, and entire story beats from shows you've probably watched a dozen times? And more importantly, can Netflix rescue its reputation before those accusations become courtroom exhibits and canceled subscriptions? Stay with me, because the deeper we dig, the messier and more expensive this story becomes. When Netflix unfurled the crimson and cream title card for With Love, Meghan, and stamped all episodes streaming March 4th, 2025, the announcement sounded less like a release date and more like a coronation. Viewers were promised 8 breezy lifestyle chapters, each a brisk half-hour tour through Montecito kitchens and sun-washed gardens, hosted by a duchess-turned-media mogul who seemed born to dispense linen napkin wisdom. The streamer's sales pitch was irresistible. Watch Meghan Markle laugh with Mindy Kaling, swap nostalgia with Suits bestie Abigail Spencer, pickle kumquats alongside Chef Roy Choi, and trade garden hacks with Alice Waters, all while Prince Harry drifts in for the occasional shoulder squeeze. The guest list read like a who's who of Hollywood confidants and entrepreneurial pals, a built-in virality engine designed to flood every corner of social media. Behind the scenes, the numbers were even splashier. Insiders whispered that Netflix's 5-year pact with Harry and Meghan topped $110 million, with roughly $48 million routed to Markle for season 1 alone, an eye-watering figure for a show that required no CGI dragons, only organic honey and reclaimed wood cutting boards. The budget ballooned further once location fees, celebrity day rates, and luxe wardrobe pulls were tallied, leaving analysts to wonder whether a feel-good series could ever recoup such royal sums. And then came the first hiccup. Raging wildfires forced production to push its January bow to early March, a delay Markle framed as an act of empathy for displaced Californians. The rescheduled premiere only heightened expectations. If Netflix was willing to wait, the final cut must be flawless. By launch week, With Love, Meghan sat atop Netflix's carousel. Fragrance candles lined merch shelves, and Hash with Love watch party trended worldwide. The streamer appeared to have secured the ultimate lifestyle crown jewel until eagle-eyed viewers hit play and felt an odd twinge of déjà vu. But that faint echo of familiarity was only the first warning bell. The real turbulence was still to come. The trailer for With Love, Meghan hadn't been live for 24 hours when Instagram sleuths started stitching side-by-side clips with something eerily similar: Pamela Anderson's forthcoming Pamela's Cooking with Love. Both promos opened on a slow-motion swirl of olive oil, cut to sun-bleached herb planters, and wrapped with the host, apron loosened, hair perfectly tousled, offering an identical toast to savoring the simple moments. Within days, the hashtag #HashPamelaOrMeghan clocked 2 million views. Anderson's fans called it a carbon copy. Markle's loyalists shrugged it off as coincidence. Yet even casual viewers could feel the déjà vu. Entertainment blogs piled on. Page 6 tallied 11 nearly frame-for-frame matches, from rustic-beamed kitchens to the breezy guest arrival montage. Live Mint went further, quoting an anonymous Netflix insider who admitted the streamer had been uncomfortable with the overlap, but pressed ahead, banking on Markle's star power to drown out the noise. By late February, a co-producer on Anderson's show diplomatically labeled the resemblance flattering, though legal analysts warned that if any entire recipes or scripted dialogue matched, the word flattering could quickly morph into actionable. For Markle, the growing chatter threatened to eclipse her philanthropic narrative about delaying the premiere for Los Angeles wildfire relief. At a Pasadena press junket, she delivered the official line, "Inspiration isn't imitation," then pointed to decades of near-identical cooking formats as proof no one owns a sauté pan or a sunflower yellow backsplash. The statement did little to calm the comment sections. In fact, it energized them. Newsweek compiled fan screenshots highlighting everything from camera angles to Markle's playful high-five and jog sequence, lifted, they claimed, straight from Pamela's pilot episode. Netflix, meanwhile, stuck to a tight-lipped stance, praising both shows, promising distinct storytelling, and privately urging its new Duchess producer to tread carefully. But executives could ignore only so much. Each new meme, each slowed-down split screen of 2 nearly indistinguishable hosts zesting lemons, chipped at the show's glossy veneer. What looked to viewers like harmless déjà vu was, inside Netflix HQ, the first domino in a line of far more serious concerns. Because as March ratings trickled in and editors sifted through rough cuts for season 2, those early similarities started to look less like coincidence and more like a pattern. And patterns, in Hollywood, invite scrutiny. Next up, when leaked Season 2 scripts landed on an executive's desk, a casual whisper turned into a 5-alarm problem. It started with a quiet, almost bored-sounding post on an industry Slack channel. Anyone else notice Season 2 looks a lot like old Rachel Ray B-roll? Within hours, PDF pages stamped WLMS2, Rev 1, April 2025, were zipping through gossip inboxes. The leaked pages showed Meghan introducing a 30-minute pantry panic segment, nearly line for line the title and timing of Ray's 2003 pilot, followed by a dessert demo first aired by Martha Stewart and later popularized on TikTok. Screenshots hit X, Reddit, then mainstream tabloids, and the deja vu accusations that had dogged Season 1 suddenly felt quaint. Netflix brass convened an emergency Zoom on May 6th. According to a YouTube insider leak later echoed by Page 6, internal reviewers flagged roughly 40% of the season's footage as potentially derivative. By the next morning, Meghan's final cut privileges were gone. An about-face confirmed in a leaked memo that surfaced on Facebook under the blunt headline, "Netflix strips Meghan of creative control." That single decision detonated the budget. Lawyers warned that leaving contested scenes intact could open the streamer to expensive takedown demands from Rachel Ray's production house or Discovery's food empire. Netflix's provisional fix: scrap, rewrite, and reshoot every scene in question. A move entertainment accountants estimated would chew through $50 million and push production well into July. The fallout backstage was immediate. Editors were ordered to bin entire recipe montages, guest chef contracts were paused, and showrunner Sarah Cadieux, elevated to replace Markle in the control room, started rewriting segments at 3 a.m. Meanwhile, Meghan's camp issued a terse statement insisting she was merely inspired by the shows she loved, labeling the probe selective enforcement. But inside Netflix HQ, executives weren't debating inspiration anymore. They were triaging a crisis that now threatened to shorten every episode, delay fall release dates, and vaporize what little goodwill remained. Next, the lawyers move in, Greg Peters counts pennies, and a lifestyle series becomes Netflix's most expensive salvage job in years. Within 48 hours of Meghan's demotion, Netflix moved from nervous damage control to full-scale forensic audit. A special committee, 2 senior VPs, an outside intellectual property law firm, and a forensic media analyst flown in from London locked themselves in a glass-walled boardroom and screened every frame she had ever signed off on. Episode timestamps flickered across flat screens while paralegals scrolled side-by-side footage of Rachel Ray, Barefoot Contessa, and half a dozen viral TikTok chefs. Any match longer than 3 seconds went onto a running spreadsheet titled Potential Infringements, WLMS2. Greg Peters, normally the picture of easygoing California calm, was suddenly counting every penny in public. He ordered production to log overtime down to the minute, slashed catered lunches to boxed quinoa, and began floating a drastic idea: trim each episode to barely 29 minutes so reshoots could be kept to the absolute legal minimum. That proposal landed like a thunderclap among department heads. Shorter runtimes meant less airtime for expensive guest talent and, in one stroke, signaled how precarious the series had become. Meanwhile, Meghan's allies inside the company found their Slack channels strangely quiet. Messages that once earned instant thumbs-ups now sat unread. HR quietly reminded managers that whistleblower protections covered anyone surfacing plagiarism concerns, a not-so-subtle hint that the investigation had the board's full blessing. And late one Wednesday, an internal memo confirmed what many feared. The committee's preliminary review suggested at least 36 scenes were substantially similar to prior broadcasts, enough to justify immediate reshoots or full deletion. Outside the glare of headquarters, Meghan's camp framed the probe as an artistic witch hunt, but that spin never made it past the marble lobby security desk. In Burbank conference rooms, the mood was clinical, bordering on icy. Identify every risky clip, cost the fix, and move on. Yet even as lawyers debated seconds and syllables, the reshoot budget ticked upward and the calendar crept toward July. Next, tens of millions evaporate, cameras roll again, and Netflix faces its most expensive salvage operation of the decade. The soundstage went dark on short notice. One Friday in mid-May, crew members were told to box every prop labeled Season 2 and stand by for pickup photography. Translation: nearly half the footage was headed for the shredder. Internal reviewers had ruled that about 40% of episodes were substantially similar to earlier cooking shows, enough to trigger a top-to-bottom makeover. That decision cracked the budget wide open. With Love, Meghan was already piggybacking on a $110 million overall deal, a figure Netflix insiders now call a regret purchase. Adding fresh shoots, new locations, and day-rate callbacks for celebrity guests pushes the running tally toward an extra $50 million, according to 2 production accountants briefed during the emergency finance huddle. Overnight, the streamer's feel-good Duchess series began rivaling prestige dramas in cost. without a dragon, car chase, or stunt wire in sight. Co-CEO Greg Peters responded by tightening every bolt he could find. Catering swapped ahi tuna bowls for boxed quinoa. Overtime required written pre-approval. Most controversially, Peters floated chopping each episode down to 29 minutes so fewer scenes would need to be reshot, an idea that horrified the show's new interim showrunner, Sarah Cadieux, who was already juggling rewritten scripts at 3 a.m. Reshoots, initially penciled in for 3 weeks, are now booked clear through late July. Studio space had to be re-rented and guest calendars reshuffled twice. One lighting tech described morale as summer school vibes. Everyone's here because they flunked the first test. Even seasoned crew whisper about walking if schedules slip again. Meanwhile, the board's finance committee is running worst-case models. If subscriber churn ticks up or a single plagiarism lawsuit sticks, the precedent set by Markle's earlier Pearl debacle still looms large. The series could move from pricey headache to write-off territory. But while Netflix wrestles with spreadsheets and shooting schedules, Meghan is busy staging her own fight back, and her next move could flip the narrative yet again. While Netflix's lawyers sifted through recipe cards and timestamps, Meghan pivoted to optics. At dawn on June 3rd, she posted a sun-drenched selfie, the Malibu shoreline glowing behind her, paired with a caption that read, "Inspiration is meant to be shared. Creativity belongs to everyone." Within minutes, the post was echoed by her publicist in a sleek press kit sent to every entertainment desk in Los Angeles. The kit framed Netflix's probe as selective enforcement and hinted, without naming names, that male creators routinely borrow formats without consequence. By mid-morning, a boutique PR agency, quietly retained during the first leaks, had seeded the hashtag #LetHerCreate across Twitter, Instagram Reels, and TikTok explainers. Influencer friends amplified it with montages of artists citing other artists. Beyoncé nodding to Tina Turner, Tarantino riffing on Kurosawa, chefs across continents remixing one another's flavors. The subtext was clear. If everyone samples the past, why single out a duchess? Simultaneously, Meghan's legal reps dispatched a sharply worded letter to Netflix's board accusing unnamed executives of institutional bias and warning that any public suggestion of wrongdoing could constitute defamation. The timing was strategic. News cycles were already buzzing about the ballooning reshoot budget, and the letter reframed the narrative from plagiarism to persecution. Inside Hollywood talent agencies, the reaction was cautious. A-list actors whispered that siding with Meghan might sour their own Netflix pitches. Up-and-coming chefs wondered whether appearing on her retooled show could boost their followings or tag them in controversy forever. One prominent food stylist booked for a season 2 cameo quietly asked her manager to circle back next year. Yet the hashtag gained traction. Fans posted compilations of Meghan's past charity work, juxtaposing them against headlines about Netflix's soaring executive bonuses. Commentators on morning talk shows debated whether the streamer was scapegoating its star to mask deeper mismanagement of funds. Meghan's strategy had shifted conversation, at least partially, from what was copied to why she was being singled out. Still, not everyone bought the discrimination claim. Media law analysts noted that plagiarism is a binary issue. Either the footage is too close, or it isn't. And insiders whispered the board's forensic spreadsheet had already logged more than 36 suspect scenes. Hashtags could sway public sympathy, but they couldn't erase side-by-side comparisons or melt a line item called additional reshoot costs, $47.2 million. Even so, Meghan's blitz achieved one immediate goal. It forced Netflix to pause a planned statement outlining the investigation's scope. Communications executives, wary of appearing vindictive, drafted a softer press note emphasizing mutual respect and commitment to creative excellence. Lawyers, meanwhile, braced for the possibility that a discrimination countersuit might enter the mix if the probe went against her. In the span of a week, a lifestyle series became a proxy war over artistic ownership, gender bias, and platform accountability. Netflix thought it had quarantined the crisis in editing bays. Instead, the Duchess moved the battle to news feeds and courtroom doorsteps. And while the streamer counted dollars, Meghan counted retweets, each one a tiny vote that her narrative, not theirs, would win public opinion. Next, industry backlash brews, subscriber sentiment wobbles, and Netflix faces the uncomfortable question of whether expensive apologies can still salvage royal dreams. The moment Netflix confirmed its plagiarism probe, Hollywood's group chats lit up like a switchboard. Talent agents began advising clients to wait for the dust to settle before guest starring on any future Meghan projects, citing the streamer's own insider whisper that executives were already worried about the show's tepid reviews and sky-high costs. Critics, meanwhile, had a field day. In the space of 1 week with Love, Meghan slid from glossy curiosity to critical punching bag. Rotten Tomatoes stalled at 40%, Metacritic at 37%, and reviewers from Rolling Stone to Variety blasted the series as a Montecito ego trip and an utterly deranged voyage into the center of nothing. The week called The Backlash a hot topic pile-on that exposed how A mind-bogglingly exclusive lifestyle can backfire when dressed up as relatability. What started as snarky tweets soon hit the bottom line. Reddit threads swap tips on cancel and comeback subscription hacks, while a TikTok trend, show us your Netflix cancel screen, then your new cookbook hack, logged over 7 million views in 3 days. Financial bloggers picked it up, and by mid-May, at least 2 equity analysts flagged Netflix's celebrity content overspend in client notes, pointing to the $110 million Sussex Pact as Exhibit A. The culinary world piled on next. Celebrity chef Jameson Stocks claimed he'd been threatened with legal action after publicly mocking the show's copy-paste menus, a story the New York Post splashed across its May 2nd front page, forcing Netflix to issue a denial the following week. Even supportive voices like Sandra Lee framed their praise in defensive terms, telling reporters the backlash doesn't seem fair, while quietly acknowledging the series drew only 26,000 U.S. households in its first 5 days. Inside Netflix, the optics grew untenable. Co-CEO Ted Sarandos took the rare step of addressing the furor in The Independent, calling Meghan a cultural rock star, but conceding the company was a passive partner, now taking a discovery model approach. Corporate code for "we're watching the numbers like hawks." Simultaneously, The Sun splashed an exclusive, claiming Sarandos still wanted a 3rd season. But industry watchers noted the same report confirmed Harry was out, evidence, some said, of Netflix hedging its royal bets. On the fan side, the backlash split into 2 camps. One petition urging Netflix to pull the plagiarized episodes nudged 35,000 signatures in a weekend. Another, #LetterCreate, racked up just as many supporters, arguing the Duchess was being singled out. Media analysts dubbed the standoff streaming's first lifestyle culture war, warning that whichever side blinked would expose the platform's vulnerability to perception as much as profit. And lurking behind every headline was the spreadsheet in that Netflix boardroom. 36 scenes still flagged high risk. If even one of those clips survives to air unchanged, the lawsuits Meghan's critics threaten could eclipse the show's entire production budget. Next up, Meghan's last-ditch renewal plea, mounting legal liabilities, and whether Netflix dares bankroll Season 3 while the investigation clock keeps ticking. By late June, as cameras slogged through midnight reshoots, Meghan's lawyers hand-delivered a 10-page letter to Netflix's board. It opened with a flourish. Season 3 will crystallize the brand's full potential and asked for a 2-year contract extension plus creative re-empowerment once the plagiarism probe wrapped. Insiders say the document leaned on raw metrics: the show's global social media reach, the brisk sell-through of her as-ever merchandise, and Ted Sarandos' own glowing quote that called Meghan a cultural rock star. The board's reaction was chilly. The very directors who'd greenlit the investigation now had to vote on another 8-figure outlay, while legal counsel warned that even one upheld plagiarism claim could expose Netflix to damages far beyond production costs. Finance analysts in the room flashed a risk matrix: red blocks for litigation, orange for subscriber churn, yellow for reputational hit. Greg Peters reportedly asked a single question: what's the liability tail if we say yes? Before pushing the decision to an August session, conveniently after the forensic audit's findings are due. Complicating matters is the original Sussex contract, still valued at roughly £78 million through 2025 and written for scripted and unscripted content in the plural. Technically, Netflix could let the lifestyle series lapse, fulfill the deal with a low-risk documentary, and walk away. But according to The Sun, Sarandos has privately floated a Season 3 workaround: keep Meghan front and center, cut Harry entirely, and cap the runtime to 30 minutes so costs stay under control. The idea landed with a thud among risk-averse board members, some of whom now see royal content as radioactive. Outside the glass tower, the renewal rumor only deepened fandom's fault line. #LetterCreate trended again, while a counter hashtag, #NoMoreRoyalSpend, racked up just as many posts showing side-by-side plagiarism clips. Netflix's comms team drafted dueling statements, one announcing a green light, another bowing out with gratitude. Both sit in a folder titled If Then August. With the forensic report ticking toward an August deadline, tens of millions already sunk into reshoots, and subscriber sentiment wobbling, the streamer faces a stark choice: double down on a Duchess under fire or cut its losses and risk a public breakup. Either way, the cost won't be measured in dollars alone. Final chapter next. Is Netflix nimble enough to rewrite this saga? Or is the curtain already falling on Hollywood's most expensive lifestyle experiment? When the forensic auditors file their August report and the last reshoot wraps, Netflix will stand at a crossroads with only bad and worse signposts. Greenlighting a 3rd season risks fresh lawsuits and more ballooning budgets. Shelving with love, Meghan invites backlash from millions who've rallied behind #LetterCreate. Even the middle path, airing a tightly trimmed Season 2, then quietly parting ways, could cost tens of millions, while conceding that Hollywood's star-driven prestige experiment fell apart over recycled recipes and déjà vu decor. Yet the stakes stretch far beyond a single lifestyle series. If the world's biggest streamer can't police originality inside its marble hallways, every future creator deal, royal or otherwise, comes stamped with an asterisk and a litigation line item. And for Meghan, the next move may determine whether she's remembered as a pioneering media mogul who fought bias or as the celebrity who mistook inspiration for imitation and paid a royal price. So keep an eye on late summer headlines. When Netflix's board finally pulls the lever, trim, renew, or terminate, the decision will echo well past Montecito's manicured gardens. Because in the new era of streaming, the most dramatic plot twists rarely happen on screen. They unfold in boardrooms, spreadsheets, and the court of public opinion long after the cameras stop rolling. And that leaves one last question for viewers everywhere. When the credits roll on with Love, Meghan, will you still be watching, or will you have already canceled the subscription in your cart?